And a good day to you, Explorer Nation. John Lynskey here in Miami, Florida.
Wow.
On Columbus campus.
He's back.
Yes, scenic downtown Westchester.
Better than ever.
That's debatable.
John Lynskey.
Episode
Dave Isenberg,
3.
maybe not so much better.
That's going to be fine. Episode 3, season 3, looking back with Lynskey. And man, what a pleasure.
Are we looking back at you or with you?
Forward, perhaps. Adelante.
Forward. I could take all the Adelante
Clearly.
I could get.
We know who this guy is. Yeah. All right. Wrestling coach extraordinaire, art teacher, Hall of Famer, all around.
Mr. McKeon reminds me of only one Hall of Fame.
Be that as it may, it's better than none.
Yes, okay. That's true.
Guys, Mr. Dave Isenberg. Dave, what a pleasure.
John, thanks for having me. I've been wondering for the last couple of years when we were going to do this. And it took me getting pretty darn sick and have you invite me, but thanks anyway. I appreciate that.
Listen, this is going to be special.
I've been finding this has been happening. Yeah, it's very special.
Yes, it is. It is. So, Mr. Isenberg, we like to, and it's become a thing with the looking back with Lynskey, how people got hired here. There's been some extraordinary stories. And you've been here since '86, but I'm going to admit that, and I had COVID, so I have an excuse. How did you get hired here?
It wasn't very extraordinary, but I'll tell you, basically, here's what happened. The first person I ever knew from Columbus High School was Brother Eugene, God rest his soul.
Great man.
Yes, great man. I worked at the Historical Museum downtown, Historical Museum of Southern Florida, downtown. I was a part-time operations manager, and I walked on the museum floor, and I educated kids on Florida history. Yes, little known fact. And so Brother Eugene would come in, and I would talk to him. I say, because he was very interested in all the displays, and I would approach him, and we'd talk about Florida history. And he told me that he worked at Columbus, and he was a Marist brother. I had no idea what that meant.
Yeah.
And I knew there were brothers over at Chaminade because I went to school. I actually lived in a neighborhood with guys from Chaminade, so they had brothers over there. I'm like, what are brothers? Anyway, so I knew him for a couple of years. And then I saw an ad in the paper. This is a true story. I saw an ad in the paper. It said, teach art, coach wrestling, boys guidance, call 305-223-5650. And I did.
Who'd you speak to? Do you remember?
I don't remember.
Okay. So who was principal?
Okay. So that was Brother Francis Garza. And so the process was a very long and arduous process.
Really?
It was like I was applying with the
like
FBI,
a real job,
like an FBI job, like all kinds of clearance.
So
I spoke to like 7 people to get this job. So like it was a very important job apparently to teach art here. And so when I came in, they said, well, why do you want the job? And I said, well, I saw in the ad in the paper, I think I can do 2 or 3 of those things. I don't think I can do boys guidance, but I can teach art because I was teaching part-time at Broward College. I was teaching photo and 2D design. I thought I could make that mesh. Yeah. And wrestling, I wrestled. So I was the man. I was your man.
I can't believe they put you through that entire process.
Well, I spoke to like 7 people. Richie Esposito, God rest his soul, Brother Francis, Brother Kevin Brogan. But the key to my success on that was Tom O'Neill, God rest his soul as well. Man. So Tom for years told me the only reason you're working here is because of me. I got you the job.
He was very humble about it.
Yes. He said, because this is the question he asked me. Would you be comfortable being the head wrestling coach since you've never coached a wrestling team before? I said, honestly, between you and me, no, I would probably be better suited as the assistant wrestling coach rather than the head wrestling coach. He said to me, well, I really appreciate your candor and your honesty on that answer. Yeah. So he told me years later that was the reason I got the job, is because I was honest about the fact that I would not be best suited as the head wrestling coach.
So you were honest. I lied when I told Brother Edmund that I could actually type and teach typing. But it all works out.
It got your foot in the door.
It really did. You do what you have to do. Hey, I got to ask you, because people want to know. This got to be the only school in history where we've had 2 consecutive art teachers who who were wrestling coaches,
Great.
Trent Taylor and you.
Yeah, absolutely. Great.
What do the two have in common?
That's a great segue into the last part of that. The last person to interview me for the job was Brother Kevin. Okay. And so a brother had me up in his office. I can remember he called me in for the second day, and I was leaning over the side there, right where Miss Yarena's office is, and Mr. Pugh's office. Yeah. And I was leaning over, looking at that white roof there on the overhang in the entrance, and I was thinking, what is this job about, man? I mean, and so I went back into his office. He called me in. He said, "So, what makes you qualified for this job?" In his usual Brother Kevin
was he
way,
warm? Was he warm?
Warm and fuzzy, just like a porcupine. And so I told him I wrestled. He said, "Well, where'd you wrestle?" I said, "Well, I'm from Illinois." He goes, You wrestled at the University of Illinois? Because the guy we have here now wrestled at the University of Illinois. Maybe you know him." He got very excited. Yeah. He became very animated. Probably it was the most animated and happy I've seen him in the 36 years that a rare thing. Yes, it was a one and done right from the beginning. And I told him, "No, brother, I am just from Illinois. That's where I learned how to wrestle. And I didn't go to the University of Illinois like Trent Taylor." So, and he said, "Well, maybe we can meet Trent." I think we walked down there and I talked to him just briefly, Trent, and very nice guy. He ended up going to Melbourne Palm Bay High School. Yes, he left here and went up to Melbourne Palm Bay. And then 2 years later, when I became the head wrestling coach, we did wrestle Melbourne Palm Bay High School. So it came full circle. It came full circle. Now, I'm going to tell you, it actually even better than that, much more rich than that. I saw him at a tournament, Trent, and my first wife, my late wife, was pregnant with my first child, who's now 30, and he said, "So Dave, how things going up there down there at Columbus?" I said, "Well, great." I said, my wife's pregnant." He said, "Oh man, yeah, your life's going to change." I said, "Yeah, I know, I heard." He goes, No, you don't understand. The second it happens, your life will change." And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "You don't know, but you will." And sure enough, man, he was correct. The second that kid came out, my life was completely funny how that different. Happens. Yeah. So people want to know, how in the hell, what do art and wrestling have in common? Basically, nothing. Hey, how you doing? I see you there. It happens. That was my lunch, and they took it. They took it. It's gone. Anyway, art and wrestling, they have nothing to do with each other. Yeah, that was like, okay, so here's what happened to me. I just kind of got sucked into this art thing. I was going to go in a direction, and you know how things kind of get shanghaied and then taken somewhere else, and that's what happened to me. And so I originally wanted to study medical illustration. Illustrations for medical books and stuff like that, like anatomy and stuff. Yeah. Papa Baronetter, those books that they have for doctors, and they go through them and, do illustrations. That was my initial plan. That's a strange plan, Mr. Isenberg. So I studied anatomy stuff. No stranger than wrestling and art. Yeah, I got to the University of Florida, and they didn't offer that. So I just kept going. I thought to myself, man, I really like teaching kids or people about what I know. And so one thing just led to another. And then I wanted to be a famous artist. And when I saw that, famous here. Yeah, that's true. But when I saw that, it was really hard to become like, a really famous, like New York artist. Yeah. I said, you know what, maybe the teaching world needs people like me. So. You know what I've noticed in your department? It's a small department, but it's a talented It's department. Like the Rhode Island of departments. Yeah, but we are the Rhode Island. But Rhode Island did a lot of great things for this country, as does the art department. It's very rich. Columbus High School. Yeah, very rich part of Newport. Very nice place. Yeah. You and Keith Cooper have an amazing ability to take kids. Like Coop's got kids that can't play a note. You got guys that draw stick figures at best, and you get them better. But not only do you get them better, you get them interested, you get them motivated. That is a skill. And well, thank you. No, it's a true skill. I would think that, and I've told this to parents at the parent, our opening parent back to school night thing, that my major objective is if kids leave my class liking art more or knowing something more than when they got there, I did my job.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. But you know what? And that's what I've noticed, and I'm not blowing smoke at you. These kids, I was watching you work with those kids down there with Young to Church there. I mean, you're taking them, they're like, you know, a little fawn, you know, going into the woods, and you guide them, you know?
Yes.
And you have a way of drawing them in to drawing, I mean, if you will.
One key, John, really, you can't, in that kind of process, you cannot demean. So I think a lot of those guys came in from St. Teresa or Epiphany or wherever, and they had bad habits. You know, they were discouraged, a lot of discouraged. By the way, when you're 10 years old, what happens is you give up trying to look at things. So you create visual shorthand, and that kind of thing is like that visual shorthand of like you make something that looks like that, and they go, oh, that's a cloud, and then you put a stick on it, it's a tree, you know.
Is that wrong?
Yeah, things don't look like that. So, you know, it's a matter of retraining. And you have to have patience.
And
if you don't have patience, forget it. Don't be here.
Yeah.
Because you might be somewhere, like jail.
True.
Prison.
Now,
so you have to have some patience.
And I think, and this is where teaching, not just art, any subject, and coaching
yes,
come together.
Yes.
Because you need to know how to motivate.
John, you're coaching in the classroom. You are,
and you're teaching, and you're teaching outside. It's the same thing.
Some of the best that we've ever had in these halls, in these classrooms, did it both.
Yeah,
did both. They were able to coach, and they took their coaching into the classroom, and vice versa.
Yes, absolutely, positively. You know, you mentioned something a moment ago. You used the term bad habits. When you first started here in 1986, there were some bad habits. This was a different place, Mr. Isenberg.
This was the Wild West.
It was a halfway house between jail and the Army. There's no question about that. How did you adapt to the wild, wild West, if you will?
Quickly. I adapted quickly.
Did you enjoy the...
Well, you know, that's a two-edged sword. You know, that all that stuff is like, all that stuff that happened, which like some people, I call it Burris amnesia. It's
selective memory.
Yeah, selective memory.
Yeah.
You forgot all that stuff that happened.
Although people have the scars to prove that it did happen. Yes.
There were some wild days.
Yeah.
My classroom, K11, which, by the way, gentlemen, 36 years now in the same room. Yeah, I'm still there. No windows, as you might remember.
Very bunker-like.
Joe Dowling, very, very, God rest his soul, would love to have had my room because no windows.
No windows.
You could bank shot. You could bank shot off the walls.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, he would come in and go, man, Dave, I love your room.
Yeah, he had bad intent. He did. But it was motivation.
Yeah, it was motivation to behave. One day we used to proctor each other's exams at one point. I was proctoring an American history exam for juniors, and guy kept leaning forward, like answering the questions. And I'm looking at him, I'm like, why are you like leaning forward so much? I realized that he had a cheat sheet of all the states and capitals and all the presidents in order in a list stuffed in his pocket here. And he would lean forward, the pocket would open, and he would look down and he would retrieve the notes.
He put a lot of work into that.
He did. I caught him though. And I said to Joe, what do you want to do? He goes, don't worry. I'll take care of it.
Don't worry.
I'll take care of it. And I never saw that kid again.
I don't know what happened. Shallow grave in the Everglades. I don't know. It's impossible.
You could probably go out back there,
something else, Mr. Isenberg, which is an unusual art teacher, wrestling coach.
It's an art. Wrestling is an art.
You're Jewish by birth.
That is correct.
So how was it being Jewish, working at a
1971,
Catholic school.
Temple Sholem. I was bar mitzvahed in 1971, January 1971, Temple Sholem. Rabbi Benstock was my rabbi. Wonderful man. I just, so you want to, what do you want to know about that?
Well, no, I know that you're Jewish. It was just, what was it like being a Jew in a Catholic school? Did it matter?
Okay,
Did
so
anybody care?
Brother Francis asked me, "Are you going to have a problem going to mass, during the day or whatever?" I said, "Absolutely not. I needed a job. Absolutely not. It was not a problem for me." And as the story goes, and I've told this story on a number of occasions, talking about my faith journey.
Yeah.
Because as you know, now I'm a Catholic.
Yeah.
And have been since 2005. That when Brother Leo, God rest his soul, passed away, we had a funeral mass for him.
Yeah.
They said, okay, take all your students into church at St. Brendan's. And I was leaning on a wall there looking at my guys, and I just felt this sense of like absolute peace there. I was like, wow, this is a strange feeling. And I thought to myself, man, if I wasn't of the Jewish faith, maybe I could do this Catholic thing.
So you did have that feeling.
Oh, I was totally drawn into it.
That's pretty cool.
I was totally drawn into it.
Cool.
And so it was like a 25-year, 20-year kind of like brewing of faith of my faith. Yes,
it was a journey.
And it still is.
And faith is a long and winding road. No doubt about that.
The long and winding.
I was hoping you would do that.
Okay, yeah, thanks.
And it was a nice segue. And that's one of the things you always contributed.
John,
here.
you're always so gracious to me. You
Yes.
always were. I mean, like I don't mean to derail you there, but
you just
when
did,
I first got there, when I
it.
first got here,
Yeah.
there were guys that would not talk to me. They wouldn't even say hi to me. I won't say their names.
We know who they are.
Mark Swanson.
Yeah, we know who they
and
are.
Fred Foyle.
We know who they are.
So they would just walk past me. Hey, fellas, how's it going? Just like that. Just walk right. I hadn't paid my dues. And I remember Alex Roca was working here, and he goes, have you noticed those guys don't talk? He says, they used to talk to me when I was a student here, and I came back, and then they wouldn't talk to me as a teacher. It didn't make sense. I'm like, I know. I don't know why I guess it's a test.
Rite of passage.
It was a test. But you never did that to me, John. You never just kind of
I recognized greatness when I saw it, Dave.
Wow. And another guy who always treated me with absolute respect from day one was Lou Savino.
Yeah, that's
God rest his soul.
Man right there.
Lou never always treated me like a professional from day one, like a professional.
He just didn't know you that well, Dave.
Yeah. Well, one day I was showing slides, my slide projector, the lights are off. Everyone's like this in the room. And I'm just going on about, George Seurat, and some guys are putting their middle finger into the light and putting it on the wall there. And I'm like, fellas, stop, please. And they kept doing it. I go, okay, you two guys, right down to office, go. Yeah. So 5 minutes later, they're back. I'm like, what are you guys back for? He said, I said, did you tell Mr. Savino what you did? They said, yeah. And he laughed. And then he said, tell Mr. Isenberg not to send you guys down here for stupid reasons anymore. He didn't use those actual words. He said
there were
stupid,
more adjectives.
Stupid other words.
Adjectives.
Yes. That was a message to me. Don't send them down for stupid reasons. I didn't think it was a stupid reason at the time.
Well, the definition of stupid back then was a little broader.
Yeah, it was very, very broad.
Yeah.
Well, what that meant to me was, Dave, take care of
your own problems.
Take care of your issues.
You know what? And
which back then, we did.
Yes.
Now, those guys who remember the early 90s, there was a piece of wood, a piece of lumber called Death Stick 2000, over 2,000 served. That was a piece of 2x2 that was sawed off by Mr. Richie Esposito.
Thought about that.
And he said, listen, when they act up, here, there you go. And so they painted it. Roger Pagam. Thank you, Roger, for painting that thing. with a skull and crossbones on it. Death Stick.
And
Stick was spelled S-T-I-K.
Of course it was.
Yes. And then if you got wrapped with that thing, you got to sign it. And so it was covered with signatures.
It was a badge of honor.
It was a badge of honor.
Struck.
Yes. Please, please get me with this thing.
Can I have another, sir?
So I can write my name on that thing.
They would misbehave on purpose just to get struck.
Absolutely.
But
I would tell them, you're going to get it. You're not going to know when, but it's going to happen. Elbows, knees, shoulder.
That's
right
not
here.
for who the bell tolls.
Never on the head. We never did headshots.
You got
neck down.
Not the face.
Never face. Never leave face marks. Can we say these things?
We are.
We just said them.
We just did. And listen, we're not telling people anything they don't know. Yeah. Listen, it was done with love. Yeah. I can't mention anybody's name specifically. That might have that got struck.
I can't say, but there was a guy that didn't get struck, but I know that he misbehaved a lot, and I probably, he went through a lot of.
Do you feel guilty?
I do. I can't say his name, but I can say his father is a very famous quarterback in the Hall of Fame, and had brothers that graduated here. And he did not attend Michigan or University of Virginia.
Yes.
I can't say him.
How you doing, Jeff?
I can't say. Listen, I had this spot in my room where the tile was ripped up because it was the old locker room, or the carpet was ripped up and it had a bumpy spot. I go, okay, I said kneel over there on this bumpy spot.
That's something the nuns would do at Epiphany. I mean, come on, man. It's cruel.
So I would catch him. I'd look over there, and he would have his wallet under his knee.
He's adapting.
He adapted.
That's
I said, for that creativity, I won't say your name.
We appreciate that. Yes.
I apologize.
Everything's fine, Jeff. Dave, art is what it is to different people.
Yes.
I have an appreciation for it. I don't necessarily get a lot of things. I did go to the Van Gogh exhibit and blew my mind. Absolutely. The guy was colorblind. How does that happen? But who would you consider to be your favorite artist? Do you have?
I have a guy named Gregory Gillespie. He's a contemporary artist. He died in 2000 though. He did have some personal issues. He was found hung in his own studio. Van Gogh, of course, the story goes, he shot himself.
And the ear was
but he mortally wounded himself in the chest. It took him a day or two to die.
Yeah, not good.
But Gillespie was just to me fabulous. But the greats, Michelangelo, Leonardo, those guys just.
You got that nice bust of Michelangelo.
I do. He looks like Manny Pacquiao. I always say
he does look like Manny.
Yeah.
Or Manny Pacquiao looks like him.
Like Michelangelo.
I don't know if Manny Pacquiao.
Well, and anybody who had my class knows that Michelangelo got beat up as a kid because he was kind of a punk.
Yeah.
He was like one of those guys that would show up from another school, had played baseball for somebody else and was really good. And then Webb would bring him in and go, oh yeah, this kid's playing your spot now, even though you've been here for 3 years. And then the kid would be talking trash and everybody hated him. That's how Michelangelo was. He was the guy that everyone did not like because he was so good.
Well, when you're that good, he did some things.
Yeah.
He did some things. Who's your favorite, among American artists? Who do you consider to be the greats of American artists?
I love a guy named Ivan Albright.
Okay.
Ivan Lorraine Albright. He's a Chicago artist. By the way, Chicago, and I'm from Chicago. I'm a native Chicagoan. Cub fan, as you guys know or may not know. I live and die with the Cubbies. Not a Bear fan, but Coach Trujillo, you know that. But I root for the Bears just for you. But we never saw Bear games. But people who know me, I know I rooted for the Vikings. And then when I moved here, I said, okay, that's it. I got to be a Dolphin fan.
Good for you. Good for you.
It's sad.
No, I mean, you got to support your local team.
Yeah.
Oh, but the Dolphins themselves, have they won anything since you moved?
No.
Or started working at Columbus?
Nothing.
No, I didn't think so.
Nothing.
not like the glory days, a long time ago.
Yeah, glory days. I totally threw you off track there. You were going
I'm
something
used to
like
it's fine. We just we'll meander. You had some great, and I'm being serious now, some great wrestlers during your tenure.
I did have some good kids.
And your guys, one thing I've noticed, and it's this way for a lot of the great coaches here, their loyalty to you exists to this very day. And that's got to be a good feeling.
Yeah, I'm still friends with those guys. Especially my big three, Manny Gennard, John Bedell, and Mario Martinez. Those three guys, Scott Doolin, and Scott Doolin the year before, and Dennis Lowen. Those five guys in the beginning were really buoyed me. Oh, Bill Nazarkovich as well. Bill, didn't mean to forget you. Those guys really, really carried me along. When I got in that room, there were days where I had no idea what we were doing. The guy who had the head job, he had his favorites. He worked with people, but I knew we had a whole team to deal with. And there were days I was looking at Mario and going, "What would Trent have done?
Yeah.
What was Cadel gonna do? What were you guys doing?" And then they would tell me, "Well, this is what worked for us, so we'll do this." So I said, "Okay." And slowly, and I had no ego about it because I knew that what I didn't know. I knew what I did not know.
That is a great statement.
And I learned from people, even people that I did not like. I won't mention Southwest, but those guys over there were kicking our rear ends around. Frank Pellegre and I were often at odds with each other. But you know what? Frank had a yellow spiral notebook. They would write everything in, everything. And guess what I did? I bought a yellow spiral notebook and I wrote everything down in there. And I wrote all our practices and everything. And I was super organized with that. I learned so much from Frank, even though Frank and I, one day he came over to Tropical when it was old Tropical before Hurricane Andrew, when he had the top on it.
Yeah.
He goes, Isenberg, this is gonna be the best team South has ever had, and we're gonna destroy you. He came in, but that was very, very nice, and he was right. Hey,
there's nothing wrong.
But don't worry,
we copping the best licks from somebody else.
Okay, it's okay. Yeah. But I learned from him. I learned from Coach Husk. There were matches where Coach Husk was coaching. I wasn't even coaching my kid. I was just listening to Coach Husk coach. I was just I had my assistant there at the tournament. I was just watching Husk and listening to what he was saying. Yeah. He would say stuff like, "Run him over, run him over." I'm like, wow, does that work? Our guys, you have to go, okay, take the hand, put on the tricep, pull hard, pull your elbow to your ribs, grab it. You don't have time for that, our guys, and he would just yell, run him over, like that. And it worked. So I would yell stuff like run him over. So we would have to practice, and then those words would have to come out. So that would create the response of run him over.
Learning from the best is the best way to do it. But I think of the guys that wrestled for you. One that comes to mind, Alex Galvez, who was a great football player. Galvez, blindly loyal to Dennis LaBelle, blindly loyal to you. And I think that speaks volumes.
I put that man through the mill. Because I didn't look at him and go, "You're a fat boy." I said, "You're one of the most tremendous athletes that I've ever seen or known."
Great feat.
I don't care how big you are. You're going to run just like everybody else.
Yeah.
And so we would do quarter miles. We would do UCLA's on that old basketball court where the wellness center is. We would do figure eights in the or the B building, where guys were running. They had to make a certain time running figure eights. Yeah. And they were jumping down the stairs, grabbing guys and helping them run, so we would make the time so they wouldn't have to run more. We did a lot of running, because what happens is after a while of wrestling, they get tired and they get sloppy. And when they get sloppy, then they start doing bad things.
Fatigue makes cowards of us all.
Yeah. So then I go, okay, well, you know what? We're just gonna like dance around in the room. Great. Now we're going over to the B building. We're gonna do stairs. We're gonna do figure eights on the stairs. They're like, no. And you know, sometimes Big Daddy would get upset.
He's volatile.
He could get upset. And I can remember one day I walked in the room and they were just going wild in there. I don't know what's happening. And I'm like, what's this melee about? Like they were like running around in there. And so like, I was like, I joined the fray there. I must admit, I got involved.
So the inmates were running the asylum.
Yes. And then Alex Chase started chasing me around the wrestling room. And then I think I had a mop stick and I was fending him off with a mop stick and I took a pad, like one of those like tumbling pads. And I put it over me, except Alex's Big Daddy was like, I'll just run into the pad. So he would just run and crash. He and Tommy Hernandez would just run into it. And I was splattered against the wall. It was all great fun.
Yeah.
I'm here.
Team building. Yes.
Yeah.
You know, a moment ago, you were doing a great imitation of Jim Husk. You are one of the great imitators. And Husk is going to be on a podcast, I think. The language could be exactly. We're going to have to work on that one, Melissa. I've been pretty good too. I've been pretty good. You've been excellent.
Yeah. I mean, you bleep these things. You'd like go. No,
generally, no. We haven't had. Well,
didn't have to.
Not all the time. Your relationship with Butch Diano, that is one of the great, just friendships in the history of this school.
That is
a very odd couple.
He's my man.
Talk about Coach Diano.
Those are his hands, so soft. Those eyes, so empty. It's like Frank Sinatra in his deathbed. Like wire on his arms. Wire.
Yeah, it is.
Metal
wire. Yeah. It is like a brush.
Yeah, he could take the rust off of a car with his arm.
How did you?
Okay, so
how did you strike up your relationship with Coach Diano?
Here's what happened. You get back in the day. No, it's not like today where it's like, I don't have time to work the football game. I've got other things to do. It was Brother Kevin saying, okay, Isenberg, you're working the Thursday night game.
You will do this.
You'll be at the Thursday night game to work the game. That's how it worked. That's how it worked back then.
Did you have an opinion back then? No one had an opinion.
Yeah, here's my opinion.
You were told what to do.
Exactly. That's my opinion. I'll do what it's told. I'm told. Okay, so one day, Brother Kevin comes up to me and says, okay, Dave, you're working a Thursday night game. Like out of the blue on Thursday. And I'm like, what? Because that's how it was back then. The new guys got to do all the great jobs.
Yeah.
There's no choice. There was no choice. So I look at Butch, I go, that was you. You put him up to that. You made Brother Kevin, he goes, what? What? I said, yeah, that you told Brother Kevin I was available tonight for this game. And he goes, I didn't say that. It's kind of becoming a Husk imitation because, Butch and Husk very close. So I go, I wasn't me. And he got really mad at me, got really ticked at me.
Yeah.
Got really ticked at me to the point where he's like, he wouldn't talk to me. So I felt really bad. I went through the weekend. I got to Sunday and I called him. At his house.
Yeah,
I said,
didn't have cell
I talked to Lourdes. Yeah, didn't have cell phones. I talked to Lourdes, says, can you put Butch on, please? Because I feel really bad. So I go, Butch, listen, I'm really sorry. I was wrong. I'm sorry I accused you of saying that Brother Kevin put you up to that. It was
you accused him of subterfuge, and I don't think he appreciated
and he
that.
didn't obviously appreciate that. And I said, listen, I'm really sorry. Please accept my apologies. I hold you in such high esteem. You're such a great person, yada, with this polyester pants up to here,
But they were nice.
That Starsky and Hutch look that he had, that Starsky and Hutch vibe. Kids look up Starsky and Hutch. And the mustache, he was just in the low fro, just picked out so perfectly. And
It really was.
And I upset him. And I really apologized. And so after that, it was just a love affair that's been going on for 35
Endless
years.
love.
Endless love.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not starring Brooke Shields.
It's a great movie. Underrated movie.
Brooks?
Yeah.
Yeah. She's tall.
She is tall. Yeah.
She's
from our era.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's from our era.
Endless love.
Yes.
Listen,
Shields.
we could keep meandering aimlessly for a while. So I think we do this because I know you've got class coming up. And we've got other topics to talk about. And I think a way to sum it up is you have faced some great adversity in your life. And you have persevered and you have overcome. And
I don't
it's
know
not
overcome,
easy.
I've had my share of disappointments
Yeah.
and some suffering during my years here. I'm going to tell you, John, if I didn't have this place, it would have been so much more difficult to have gotten through the times that I've gotten through. So
I hear what you're talking about. And so next time I'll be back up in Georgia and we'll do it remotely. Okay. Because of the wonders of technology here, although sitting next to you has been the highlight of my return to Miami.
How about that?
How about that?
Whenever Isenberg's the highlight of something.
What does that say exactly? But no, in all seriousness, I am so glad we did this segment sitting next to each other.
Is there a part due?
Part due, yes.
Wow.
Yeah, we're going to do it with the wonders of technology. Melissa Marty's going to, ably assist us, and I will be speaking to you from Macon, and you'll be sitting in K11 or wherever, and we'll go down.
You can't say Macon Bacon, can you say that?
Well, actually, the name of, believe it or not, the minor league hockey team in Macon are the Macon Bacons.
Wow.
That is a name.
Back in our day, that meant something else.
It did. The minor league baseball team, Macon Whoopee. I mean, they capitalize on that. I mean, as well they should.
Yes.
But
so we're going to meet again.
We're going to do this again.
All right.
Okay. So guys, it's been a true pleasure having the great. No, we're going with great Dave Isenberg, my hero, no doubt about it. Someone I've always admired and
one
looked
day
up
at a
to.
time.
Yes, and part 2 will be coming up soon. We thank you for joining us, Mr. Isenberg. Until next time.
Peace and blessings, gentlemen. Thank you very much.
Buenos tiempos.
If I stepped on anybody's toes in the last 35 years,
who cares?
well.
Buenos tiempos and adelante.